Wonderful. All right, Councilmember Alejandra Gutierrez, if you would take it away, please, and start us off.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm really excited about the new service that we'll be hosting every Wednesday at our district. And I'm really excited about the collaboration and the services that we're going to give. Something that have found out in my work is that we have a lot of services in Santa Barbara, but they're not always aligned. So I'm just very grateful for this opportunity and just thankful for all of you guys working together to make this happen. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you for being here and for your support. So just to give us a little bit of a shape of this evening before we get started, I'm just going to dig into a little bit for those of us who don't know what an NNC is. I want to kind of give us a little crash course into what it is, what it looks like, and the services that will be offered at this neighborhood navigation center on the east side. And then I'm going to pass the proverbial mic to a couple of our service provider partners, Maggie Sanchez, who's the executive director of Doctors Without Walls, Molly Weta, and then also Jerriann Gargano, each kind of in their own lanes and their own ways serving population experiencing homelessness. Then we'll talk a little bit about ways that we work together to mitigate any neighborhood concerns. And then there'll be an opportunity for questions, comments, any kind of interest at the end. We want to make sure we make space for all of that as well. So just to get us kind of moving along, our neighborhood navigation centers have functioned in a variety of ways since 2005. First, it was a meal share, and then it kind of evolved into this collaboration, this service provider hub that convenes a variety of service providers to connect individuals experiencing homelessness to case management, to healthcare, to hygiene services, and so much more than that too, in the sense of relationships that folks are building with Westmont students, with a bunch of our relational providers. And there are two other neighborhood navigation centers in the city of Santa Barbara. One is at Alameda Park. Maybe you've been there on a Thursday night for a meal share and seen it in action. That's our longest running NNC. And then we had the opportunity last year to convene a forum much like this for West Downtown. And then we launched a neighborhood navigation center at the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot. We joined Showers of Blessing, who'd been facilitating shower services for a long time. And they graciously opened up the door for us to get to use that parking lot and bring in all of these different provider vans. It's a cool sight to see all of these different agencies kind of popping up with their brightly colored vans to offer services on Tuesday mornings. And those models work beautifully for these particular neighborhoods, addressing the kind of specific needs that we see in downtown Santa Barbara on both east of State Street and west of State Street. But we know that the east side of Santa Barbara and the waterfront is also impacted by homelessness, and that folks don't travel very far from their kind of 8-block radius. And so we wanted to be able to connect with two of our shelter providers, PATH and the Rescue Mission in particular, to be able to serve the particular needs of folks both accessing their services and also that aren't accessing shelter services, but that are experiencing homelessness on the east side. And so on Wednesday mornings, to kind of fill another day of the week. So we have a Tuesday NNC, we've got a Thursday NNC, and then sandwiched in the middle will be a Wednesday morning, 8 to 10 a.m. kind of service provider option for behavioral wellness services, for library services, for the chance to kind of connect relationally with two of our relational kind of, I'm not sure what else to call them, sort of service navigator partners. It's the Santa Barbara Response Network, who does a lot of psychological first aid and stress management, as well as Project Heal, who does a lot of mental health work as well. So, and then also Doctors Without Walls, providing all of the wonderful medical care and trust building relationship work that they do to help folks kind of navigate this world of services. So that will be on Wednesday mornings. We're really looking forward to the opportunity of connecting with a kind of a different population, a different group of individuals than those who access services at the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot and at Alameda Park. And I think that kind of concludes my little spiel. And I think who you really want to hear from are our service provider partners. So I'm going to hand it first to Maggie Sanchez, just to share a little bit about why NNCs are needed, why they're effective. I think each of these provider partners has their own lens, their own sort of story for why their teams have chosen to join us at NNCs, and what they see and who they speak to, and kind of what the needs are, particularly as they emerge on the East Side. So first, Maggie, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So Doctors Without Walls was founded approximately 15 years ago. And at that time, we discovered that the best way to reach the population we wanted to serve was to follow Jeff Schaefer's meal share. So as Jeff was providing, he organized faith-based organizations, and they were providing meal shares. We just kind of tagged along. And it was through that we finally made the decision that we would continue that this type of a model, where a lot of providers come together, really worked. I mean, there was at one point in time in Pershing Park, we were seeing everything from AmeriCorps, which was enrolling people in insurances. We had organizations that were reconciling families and bringing families back together. So we had an early opportunity back in 2008, 2009 to really see that this model worked. I'll tell you a little bit about Doctors Without Walls, and then I'm just going to pass it over to Oscar Delgadillo, who will talk a little bit about what we're doing right now. So I wanted to report that if you don't know who we are, Doctors Without Walls actually had 4,966 encounters with the unsheltered and marginally sheltered populations in 2021. It's almost 5,000 encounters. 1,535 of those encounters were for medical treatment. Of these 4,966 encounters, 1,032 were unique clients, people that had never been in our system. Remember now, we've got 15 years worth of data on this population. 690 were men, 341 were women, and 1 transgender. 27% of those treated responded they had received treatment or were diagnosed with a mental health illness. And then in addition to that, the numbers are coming through, and we have vaccinated about 1,050 of our homeless population. We were very successful in providing the single dose J&J for this homeless population. So, our goal is to keep our unsheltered and our marginally sheltered populations healthy. As always, our community that we all live in and thrive in and work in is the most important piece. So as this demographic is a big part of our community, we are really committed to making sure that they stay healthy, that there isn't disease out there. And I'm proud to say that not a single homeless person ended up on a ventilator in the last 2 years. So Doctors Without Walls will continue to always be there at the NNC. So now I'm going to let Oscar, who is my outreach worker, he is out on the streets 5 days a week and sometimes in the evenings, and he's the one that goes and finds people on Saturday and takes care of people that are in need. So Oscar, you want to go ahead and speak a little bit about what you're doing right now?
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. So like Maggie mentioned, we go out 5 days a week. We go out in our van. We usually have a doctor or a nurse with us. We're providing medical care, companion care, which is a lot of setting up our population with long-term primary care at the neighborhood clinics, at the Franklin clinics, and so on. And really, what I want to share is that our experiences and failures have shown us that the best methods to helping those experiencing homelessness is by a holistic approach: shelter, hygiene, case management, counseling, and medical care. The Neighborhood Navigation Center is able to gather all these providers in one place. I believe that having this center will allow people to get the help they need so they can get out of the streets. The majority of the people experiencing homelessness have a lot of issues that make it difficult for them to wrap their minds around housing. We have to take care of their basic necessities first, like food, clothing, hygiene, medical, mental well-being, and acquiring legal documents. Back in January, a woman who was experiencing homelessness died alone on a bench. She went to sleep and never woke up. A month earlier, she had the chance to get into a shelter, but she rejected the offer. I believe it was too much change at once with too many other issues needing to be addressed, like mental health and medical. I believe that the NNC could have helped her address all these issues before getting housed. With the support of the rest of the NNC, she could have been eased into the shelter life. I can only believe what logic in my heart tells me, and I truly believe that she could have been alive today if she would have the full support of the providers of the NNC. And one of the things about her is that she lived in one of the encampments out in Goleta, and we're seeing a lot more encampments out in Goleta. So whatever number that you think is out there, just double it, because yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Oscar and Maggie, for those stories and points, and also for all of the hard work that you do on a daily basis, working with folks, building trust. I know that people come to NNCs and they look for you. They want to see doctors, and so I just appreciate that. Next, I'd like to hand it to Molly Wetta with the library services, and she'll be able to explain a whole lot better than I ever could all of the different things that the library is able to offer. And also just a shout out to Danny and to Holly, who are two of our faithful NNCers, and they're also going to be on site with us at the Rescue Mission NNC. So go ahead, Molly.
Yeah, thank you for organizing this. We're excited to expand services to the East Side. So the library's mission is to provide access to information and education and resources. And our projects that are for outreach are all about reducing barriers to accessing library services, because we ask nothing of anybody to use any of our resources. It's open to everybody, but some people have difficulty visiting the libraries for a number of reasons. And so this has been a chance to bring some of those services to our most vulnerable populations. So currently at the NNCs on Carrillo Castillo and Alameda, we're taking the Library on the Go van, which is equipped with a fleet of laptops with high-powered Wi-Fi enough to support a lot of devices. We have a charging station so people can charge their own personal devices. And we're there to provide access to those basic materials. We've also been able to institute a welcome card so that even people who don't have a permanent physical address are able to get a library card to check out materials. That includes books, but also they could borrow their own personal laptop or hotspot if they're needing access to internet, or any of those other materials that the library offers. And then we also bring our adult education services. So Danny works on our adult education team, and Holly is our family literacy librarian and is coordinating a project at the library called Community Connections, where we're really trying to make it easier for people to get connected to the services that they need, with a warm handoff instead of like, here's maybe a list of phone numbers or email addresses or websites to check out based on what you need. So we can help people get started getting their vital documents. If they don't have a social security card, they need to get their birth certificate, they need to get an ID, a driver's license. We are getting set up to be a community-based organizations that's able to process applications for like Medi-Cal, CalFresh, get people set up in those systems so that they're able to access those resources. And then through these sort of like basic needs, once people have access to that, we want to introduce them to the library services that adult education provides. Maybe that's technology classes. They need to learn how to use a computer in order to get a job, or to, you know, do other tasks that a lot of us might take for granted if they've never had that opportunity. Maybe they, you know, need to learn how to read and write better and want to take advantage of our adult literacy programs. Maybe they're looking for a job and they can take advantage of our workforce development at SBPL Work. So that's looking for jobs that are going to meet their needs. That's applying for jobs, interview practice, navigating an online application process. So those are all of the services that we can provide and more, as well as introduce them to the community of the library, because making connections with other people is what we're all about facilitating. And definitely we take that relationship building approach that has worked well with Doctors Without Walls and with the other organizations like Showers of Blessing who are providing those services, that once you become a trusted person in their life, they're more able to access other services and hopefully eventually transition into housing. So that's sort of what we do. It's going to look a little bit different at this location. All of the sites are different. We're going to start without taking the van, but we'll take, our computers, be able to help people print documents, the charging station, kind of all of that set up, and see how that goes, and just see what the unique needs of the people on the east side are, and refer them over to to visit the East Side Library if they need services outside of this time slot. So that's what we'll be doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly, for that crash course in all of the different things that the library can offer and does offer. And just a little kind of an anecdote, there's a gentleman who accesses that library assistance who's been working with Taylor at the library van off and on for the past couple months, learning how to use Microsoft, learning how to use Excel and Word and all of these things that we might not assume folks need lessons in, but that this guy really wants to learn. And so over time, he's built trust with this kind of hardened individual, and Taylor's been able to sit with him and talk with him and get to know him on this relational level. And it's been a lot of fun just to watch that relationship grow and watch this individual develop the kinds of skills that he wants to develop to take steps for his own future and his own well-being. And so we're hoping that this kind of same energy happens on the east side, and we know that it will, because folks in each neighborhood kind of need these basic services. And last, I want to hand it over to Jerriann Gargano. She works in homeless guest services with Kevin at the rescue mission, and just kind of brought folks to NNC, saw what they brought, and said, we got to have something like this at our space too. So Jerry, please do go ahead.
Thank you, Kayla. So we're just an emergency homeless shelter. So anybody can come to our door. They don't have to be referred from another agency. They don't have to be getting case management through another agency. Our main services are just a bed, meal, and shower. But what we've seen the last probably 6 months, maybe to a year, a lot of our guests have just been asking for services. They've been just wanting housing assistance, a lot of mental health, a lot of, can you help me get an ID? Can you help me get a social security card? What's the process for housing? A lot of them just aren't fully aware of that. So I was working with two of our guests, one male and one female, who had been with us for a while, both of them, multiple months, and they both wanted to just get into the coordinated entry system and see about housing. So I was able to help them get document ready. But once they had their documents, we just realized it was really hard for them to get into the coordinated entry system through HMIS. We don't have access to it here at the Rescue Mission right now. And so after a few weeks, I just was like, let's just go to the commuter lot. Let's just try. They have lots of services there. It can't hurt. Let's see what happens. So I went with them. All three of us went together down to the commuter lot, that NNC. And as soon as we got there, both of the guests just almost immediately were like, oh my goodness, I've been wanting to talk with behavioral wellness. I've been wanting to see the doctors. Weren't aware that the NNC was happening every week. And I think we were there for almost 2 hours of them just going around. And one of our guests worked with the library to get a social security card, and public health was there. Both of them were able to get into the HMIS system and just learn more about what that looks like. I was able to learn more about what that looks like and how we can help from just being a staff at the Rescue Mission. And so it was really helpful for everybody. It was helpful for our guests, for sure, most importantly. And I think it was also just really helpful as a staff member to be able to connect with different agencies there. So we're very excited to have it here. And I think we still constantly have a lot of guests asking for services, and we're excited to just be able to provide it here. Also, people who don't have a bed, people who just come for meals and showers, they're also same thing, asking for a lot of the same services, and just kind of like a curiosity of, oh, what does the housing process look like, or what mental health services are out there. And so I think it'll be really good. We're really excited to be able to have everybody here.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry. And also just thanks for every partner that's on this call that isn't sharing right now for all of the work that you do. And I want to pass it to Jeff as well, just to share a little bit of his own thanks.
Yeah, I mean, these neighborhood navigation centers are just so important. We know that we'd rather have all these people indoors in their own home, receiving services in their own space. But in the midst of trying to increase our, working to increase our shelter bed and the non-congregate shelter beds and our housing, we need more dignified spaces where people who are experiencing homelessness can come and be treated as equals and as human beings and have friendships and relationships. And I think that's one of the things I hear on the call is just how vital it is for all of us, our service providers, to have that rapport and trust building so that people feel like they can navigate their way back into this system after so many have found it difficult, right, to utilize the system often. It's very difficult to understand all the paperwork and everything that needs to be done. So really excited about the rescue mission because of the space that you already have and the history you already have with people on the streets, and partnering with PATH as another shelter to be connected there, I think is really vital too. So really appreciate you. And then how I just look around on the call and the history of all the partners, and I think of the library, who's been the de facto day center for years, and how they've created a safe space for people on the streets, and they're going beyond. I look at all of you, you're all going beyond the pale oftentimes on what needs to be done. And even as I look down and I see Brett here and Calvary, and how you've opened your doors compassionately to the population around on the east side as a faith community. So it's really exciting to collaborate more and work more together. And this is another opportunity for us with a population on the east side that need to know we care about them, that we're doing the best that we can to support them. And just the final thought is, we know that most people, if they have everything in place, if they get the assistance, are going to work with the system. They want to get out of homelessness, and this is another key step for that. So just really appreciate all of you as direct service providers and partners.
Thank you for that, Jeff. And just a couple other notes that I forgot to mention in my initial introduction that I want to make sure I capture. Behavioral Wellness, their homeless services team, is able to work with folks and works with many different individuals to connect them to medical services if they are needing mental health medication or treatment. They also work with folks to help them get document ready, to help them get in the system, to help them find all of their different pieces and get all of those things in order and help them navigate to housing. And we also have CityNet that will be there as well, providing case management, housing navigation services, building those trusted relationships over time with folks that before might have said no, but after receiving a meal, getting to look at books, getting to access Wi-Fi, getting to be in this dignified space might just say yes. And we know, and Jeff can speak to this so much more than me, and the other providers on this call as well can share that much more about how when that trusted relationship happens in a dignified space, people are so much more willing to say yes, and they do. Now I want to pass it over to my coworker, colleague, Barbara Anderson. She's going to share a little bit about some of the ways that we work together and already do at the Carrillo Castillo Commuter Lot and at Alameda Park to mitigate any neighborhood concerns, to address any neighborhood impacts, because we know that all of these NNCs happen in a neighborhood with housed individuals living and working alongside as well. And we know that there are impacts. And so we want to be able to speak to that. So Barbara, I'm going to hand it to you.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you, Kayla. And thank you, Jeff. I just appreciate being part of a team that keeps pushing forward and again, working with all the incorporeal provider partners that are on this call to really try to reach people where they're at. So I'm Director of Partnerships with the SB Act. I've been working with the organization for 2 years now. I'm still learning with all of you just in terms of knowing what we can do to remove barriers, increase efficiency and effectiveness in delivering services and support to individuals experiencing homelessness. The Neighborhood Navigation Center model in itself, in terms of us reflecting on what is possible and not possible with replicating this model in other neighborhoods, and the work that's happened for years at Alameda Park and taking the steps to formalize that as a neighborhood navigation center. One of our first considerations was impacts to the neighborhood and really understanding what can we do to make sure that we're facilitating service delivery, again, and meeting individuals where they're at, but also really putting into play those mitigating factors to reduce any of those extenuating impacts. So one is that the neighborhood navigation center model itself is 1 day a week in the neighborhoods. It's not a consistent, it's not 5 days a week or more. Again, this is a model and approach that's really trying to step into a space where we know day centers that are full-time, located in an area and a facility that is more permanent. We're stepping into a space knowing that that's not always the best approach in the neighborhoods in Santa Barbara, especially those that have high number of residents and businesses, as well as tourists, and again, a lot of other factors. So the 1 day a week, a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours in that location in and of itself is trying to mitigate those impacts. The first is, as we were formalizing the NNC at the Alameda Park location, we were able to capture data for several months. It was up to 8 months in that location, capturing the number of individuals that were at that location the morning of a neighborhood navigation center and the morning after the NNC would happen that evening. And there was no noticeable uptick in us delivering those services at the NNC in that location. We know that there are increases in individuals in any one area at any one time, given other enforcement activities and other movement that's happening for a variety of other reasons. So we did see an uptick in that region during COVID-19 as encampments were being cleared and parks were more of a safe space for folks. So I do want to acknowledge that. And I want to let everyone know that it's monitored very actively, same as the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot, as we were able to replicate to that second site over the last year. And we do communicate regularly with Santa Barbara law enforcement and the police department. Lieutenant Katsapis is here. What's wonderful about the Neighborhood Navigation Center model, and again, expansion to the third site on the east side, is that this is part of the Act on Homelessness Collaborative with the City of Santa Barbara as a partner, along with SB Act and upwards of 35 different agencies all coming together to align their efforts in this work. So we have the full support, as you're seeing here with Councilmember Gutierrez and law enforcement and other city staff and leadership. We have the full support of the city to be at these locations. So that level of coordination is different than other efforts that happen to be kind of a one-off or a continuous kind of community engagement effort that's through an independent organization that isn't part of something as formalized as this. So we are able to have real-time information sharing, data collection, again, in terms of those impacts and communication with law enforcement. If we are seeing impacts to the region, that they are able to come in to do a little bit more, again, going through the area, making observations, issuing citations if they need to be. And the NNCs are complemented with our regional action plans, which are also neighborhood based. So many of you already participate in the weekly Eastside regional action plan meeting. That is another opportunity for us to make sure that impacts are being monitored as we pilot this new Eastside NNC in the neighborhood. So again, multiple efforts. Really just want to get across how much has been considered and even making sure that this model is impactful in a positive way for those individuals that we're trying to serve, that it can be replicated. And we have done that slowly and very strategically to this third site, and that each site is actually at a different type of location and a different time of day. So we're working as a team, and our collective of provider partners here are all working together to say, which site do we feel is facilitating the most effective and efficient service delivery? And again, being able to mitigate and reduce those impacts to the neighborhood. So whether it's the mid kind of morning location at the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot, the evening time and location at Alameda Park, and now working with a shelter provider partner and providing the services in the morning, we'll be able to assess these sites in that collective and be able to make those determinations moving forward. So always opening that conversation of learning and evaluation and measuring our progress with everyone here. Happy to take questions too, Kayla, on that specifically.
Yeah. If folks have questions on that note specifically, as well as other questions just generally, please do feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand as I kind of share our final logistical details before we open it up to any neighborhood questions, any provider questions, comments. Again, I want to make the space for all of you to be able to share and ask questions. So just a couple last notes, just want to reiterate. We are launching this opportunity on Wednesday, March 30th at 8 in the morning, going till 10 in the morning. So that's launch day. We're looking forward to it. If you would like to come and just check it out and see what it's like, you'll be experiencing it for the first time alongside the rest of us. But you are always welcome to come visit any one of our other neighborhood navigation centers. Again, if you've been to Alameda Park on a Thursday night, or you've been to the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot, you'll know that they look different and that this will look different too. And hopefully kind of effectively meet the needs, particularly of folks accessing shelter at PATH, accessing services at the rescue mission, and even being able to kind of work in this multi-directional approach where if there are folks that are at the NNC that morning that do want to enter shelter that night, that we're able to work quickly in partnership with PATH, in partnership with their rescue mission to see, can we get a bed? Can we make that happen for this individual who says yes, that we can do it that quickly that night? So all that to say, happening on that Wednesday. And if you'd like to visit at any other point down the line, please do feel free to reach out to me. Most of you probably have my email, but I'll put it in the chat as well. I'm also glad to talk offline with anyone who's got extra questions after this forum. And the last thing that I'll share is that this coming Monday, we'll be doing a little kind of mini outreach walk in the neighborhood. We've got little cards that share information about the Eastside NNC in both English and Spanish. And so some of our service provider partners from the neighborhood navigation centers, from the rescue mission, I'll be out there. And if you'd like to join us, just to walk kind of that area between PATH and the rescue mission and a little bit up and down the east side, just to kind of share that information with folks, that this is coming their way. This is happening for them. These services are made to mitigate homelessness and its impacts, and to be able to connect folks with the resources that they need and sometimes just don't know how to do. So again, that outreach walk will be happening this coming Monday. And if you'd like to be a part of it and like to kind of walk your own neighborhood and experience it with us and talk to folks and engage them, you are welcome. It will be at 10 in the morning on Monday. I'll send a little email as well to our NNC providers, and we'll talk about it at the Eastside Regional Action Plan meeting that Jeff put in the chat this coming Friday. So now I want to open it up for any kinds of questions or comments. Again, you can feel free to put them in the chat, raise your hand, speak out. We're a small enough group that you can feel free to unmute yourself as you please.
Yes, Kevin Carroll, Santa Barbara Rescue Mission. Super blessed to be a part of this, and thank you for being on this Zoom and all of the partners going forward. The dear lady who was murdered on state was a guest of ours on many occasions, stayed with us for a long period of time. And, just part of me says, we're doing this for the guests going forward, that we're not able to get services and that we're not able to get connected with behavioral wellness or the things that they needed to get housed, because, just the reality of it is it's tough out there for folks. And, my heart grieved when I knew who it was when it happened. It just because I know that's where she stayed, and we want to do our best to alleviate that kind of stuff from happening in Santa Barbara or anywhere else. But I think the more services that we can provide for our guests, even the ones who are not staying with us, I honestly believe that we could make a difference. And whether it's just getting someone document ready, maybe just getting hooked up with Be Well or whatever. We're so excited about this, and it is going to be an experiment in the sense that we're working together in this, kind of like throwing pasta on the wall. I like to say, some of this may be going to stick, some of it we may be flexible. But thanks to Jerriann, this is kind of her brainchild, and since she came to me and said, "Hey, can we do this?" And I've always liked to live outside the box, and so I think this is going to be a good time. And I would encourage you, if you haven't been by the mission, to see what's happening, particularly on Wednesday. It's going to be exciting. Just thank you for partnering with us and allowing us to be a part of this NNC.
Thanks for those words, Kevin, and for being willing to take a chance on being our first shelter site to do this NNC. It's exciting. All of the possibilities are exciting. And Jeff is right. I mentioned in Eastside Wrap that no one is attending this Friday. It would just be me on Zoom. So our usual Eastside Wrap meets at 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. If you'd like to be a part of that group, we're changing the structure a little bit, but we'll still keep you in the loop. And our next will be, as Jeff said in the chat, on Friday the 25th at 10 a.m. And the NNC, we'll be talking about it because it will be happening in just a few short days after that. Are there other questions, other comments? Natalia, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My question is directed to you, Kayla and Barbara. You had mentioned that this navigation site here in the East Side is going to be different than the one in Alameda Park and the Carrillo parking lot. Specifically, what do you mean different other than it's going to be here on the East Side? Of course, the time is different than the other two locations. I would like to know specifically what is going to be different about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Barbara, do you want to take that question or would you like me to take it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the time of the day and the location is vastly different than our other two sites. And so we are pointing that out again, because we have not done a location at a shelter provider partner, physical facility and partnership with them. And we haven't done one in the morning. So this 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. time. So it really is going to be important for us to see if folks remain in the area or if they're using that kind of as their starting point and then they go kind of again where they usually frequent. Or again, that the rescue mission has built this level of rapport and reputation and access to a number of folks. Are we going to see more folks at that location because of that? Again, being able to provide a number of services at that period of time. And then Kayla, you know, the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot has a lot of the mobile vans that providers are able to, again, bring on site and be able to provide an additional level of supportive services because of that. This location does not facilitate that. So I think we're trying to see, again, the services we're able to provide, the type of rapport and trust building we're able to facilitate with service provider partners, kind of that warm handoff to the next partner at, again, a very different setting.
Yeah. Something I would add to that Barbara highlighted is that, again, each neighborhood is a little bit different. For example, at the Carrillo Castillo commuter lot, we see a lot of folks who live in their vehicles and use their vehicles as the primary mode of transportation to that neighborhood navigation center. It may be that the Eastside NNC, by being located at a shelter, doesn't see that many folks who live in their vehicles and maybe sees more folks who sleep at Path overnight and just need a little extra assistance connecting to services, who sleep at the rescue mission overnight and need assistance navigating services. So it may just be that we see trends a little bit differently. Alameda sees folks kind of in that State Street area. We don't see as many State Street folks probably on the East Side. So I hope that answers your question a little bit, Natalia. There'll be a little bit difference in the population that we see. Hopefully we see more East Side folks at this East Side NNC and we're able to engage them. As well as the things that Barbara mentioned, just the particular types of services, times of day, and location all means that what we are able to offer will have its own kind of flair in hopefully a really beautiful, positive way. Councilmember Alejandra Gutierrez, go ahead.
Thank you. I just have a comment. I just want to thank everybody. I know this navigation center has been in the works for a couple months, and just getting everybody together and seeing actually the outcome. I get stopped on the street, you know, saying like, what are you going to do for the homeless issue? People complain about, why don't you get the business owners? Why don't you get law enforcement? Why don't you get the county? Why don't you get faith-based organizations to help? And in this call, we have everybody that we need, because the homeless issue in Santa Barbara, it's not a neighborhood issue. It's not just a Santa Barbara issue. It's a community, it's a society issue, and we all have to come together. The city can't solve it. law enforcement can't be the only one out there. You know, we can't rely on CityNet to do everything. We have to come together as a community. We have to align the resources, and this is exactly what it's happening. So I'm so proud of the community, and for all of you guys, just thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I'm really excited about the Navigation Center. I will be there on Wednesday, and I just want to thank everybody. I know it's been a difficult last 2 years with everything that's going on, but I'm really happy that we all came together, and thank you, Jeff, and your team for making this happen and for being so patient with me. I know I'm all over the place, but I'm really happy to see everybody to come together. And this is such a great example when we have our city council meetings to tell the public, like, this is where the money is going. And we're not just talking about it, we're actually creating some change. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And go ahead, Maggie.
15 years of, serving this population has taught Doctors Without Walls a lot. And I just want to remind everyone on this call how absolutely phenomenal it is that all of these agencies, all of these nonprofits, the city, the PD, the county, behavioral wellness, all of these agencies, we have all come together at the exact same time in agreement that we would assist each other in helping those that are unsheltered or marginally sheltered find their way into transitional housing and then eventually into permanent housing. That's always been the goal, is to get people off the streets and into permanent housing. But it doesn't just happen overnight. You just don't put someone in an apartment and suddenly they're okay. What has to happen is they have to be guided into the system again. They have to be reacquainted with just being document ready, with being healthy. Doctors Without Walls believes that healthy people make good decisions. And so for us, it's super important to keep this population healthy. I just want to share a story. Last year, Kevin and I worked for 4.5 weeks to bring a person in off the street, someone who had behavioral health issues, who was not taking care of themselves, that was out there in the open. And we worked so hard along with PD, we worked along with behavioral wellness. And like I said, it took us 4.5 weeks to get this person finally inside. Kevin was able to bring him inside into the shelter finally, even though he would take a shower and the first thing he'd do is head back out. But eventually we were able to, behavioral wellness was able to help us put him into conservatorship. And now he is in a place in Los Angeles where he is being treated and taken care of. And those are the kinds of success stories that we are now seeing as a group. NNC has brought us together so that we can help each other. So what I can't do, John Masuda from Behavioral Wellness does, or Kevin does. And so I just think it's so important for everyone to understand on this call that what we're doing is we're working to keep our community healthy and strong. And the way to do that is through collaboration and helping each other. So I just really want to make sure that everybody understands how phenomenal this is. Passionate, I know.
And Maggie, I want to add to that just slightly, because you have taught me this, and so many of our partners have taught me this over the last couple of years, is that it takes a Herculean effort for all of you to be able to, get the approvals and have the staffing capacity to be able to commit the time at all of these locations. And now we will have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in operation, which is beyond, I think, what SB Act could have imagined when we were first talking about how can we reach more people like we are reaching at Alameda Park. But it also is the consistency that at any given time on those days and those hours, someone can be ready and they show up and they're going to be able to meet with someone. And that level of consistency, that commitment has built trust with individuals who are living unsheltered, right, and unhoused, that on any Wednesday in the next however many months, for the next however many years, if they decide to show up at 8:30 a.m., we will be there. And so thank you so much for that. And thank you so much, all of you, for making the commitment to be there and be in support of this work that we know is reaching so many folks that we have not been able to reach.
Barbara, can I just make a quick comment to
Go ahead, John.
piggyback on what's being
Absolutely,
said? It's been a blessing for these neighborhood navigation centers to be developed by SB Act and having all of the partners participate. I'll share with you a couple stories that this happened in the past week. On Tuesday at the Carrillo Castillo lot, we had a client show up in a state of crisis. I was able to meet with the individual along with our team, and I was able to get that person into a higher level of care. And that person, as a result, was able to get some needed mental health services, and he's doing a lot better. And we're looking at getting him into step-down housing, which is great. The other example happened on Thursday at Alameda Park. There's a person that a lot of us are very aware of, who's a very high-profile homeless in the community. I was able to meet with him to do some paperwork and get him on ProPay. And I'm going to be submitting that packet later this week. So hopefully that individual will have support in managing his money. So I just want to give those recent examples of how having these neighborhood navigation centers are really effective in terms of engaging our clients who are living on the streets.
We could just end right there. Just so grateful to each of you. Again, for these stories, getting to hear them. This is the first time I'm getting to hear some of these stories and these comments. Sorry.
I'm sorry, Kayla. I think Brett's trying to raise
go
his
ahead,
hand.
Brett. Sorry.
Yeah, hey, Kayla.
Jump on in.
Thank you. And Jeff, thank you again for putting this on. Brett Schellberger here from Calvary Chapel, Santa Barbara. This is Pastor Tommy Schneider from Calvary Chapel, Santa Barbara. And again, we're thrilled to be a part of this community and this team. I just had a couple logistical questions. I see everybody's names on here. I don't know, we missed the first 5 minutes of the conference. Will we be getting names and what organization everyone's with? Will we have that?
Yeah, so I'll be pulling together once I have a Google form out right now to some of the providers just to fill in who from their agency will be there on site. And I don't want to give you any names right now because I know that each provider is sort of trying to nail all of that down right now. But when I'm able to pull together that information and the times that they'll be on site, we'll have a little kind of directory to be able to share, okay, CityNet's going to be here and it will be this guy from this hour to this hour. I'll be able to get that information to you. But I don't know if you'll be able to see the chat kind of in retrospect, but folks were able to introduce themselves. So yes, to answer your question, as far as on-site contact information.
Okay,
we'll be able
great.
to
And then
have
just the directory of everyone on this chat would be helpful. What everyone does. I don't know what everyone does, but
yeah, sure.
I know some do. YMCA there, I see rescue mission. And then Kevin, thank you for sharing. I was kind of stunned to hear about Teresa because we know Teresa. She came into church quite a bit, and that breaks our heart. I just literally just found out just now. Thank you for sharing that, and I think keeping that in mind. Blonde hair Anna, she's out there by the freeway, and she could potentially be next, and she was very similar. So anyways, thank you.
We're excited that the navigation center is going to be setting up because, when you get personal and you begin to see them come in and out and you kind of get to know their personalities, it really hits home. And it's going to be a blessing to be part of this with all of you fantastic people that are interested in changing our city. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Brett. I'll follow up with you and share a little bit about kind of some of each of the individuals that was on this call and that you got to share from. And also we'll have a recording of this meeting, and a lot of folks introduce themselves at the beginning. So hopefully that, together with my little follow-up email, we'll be able to kind of fill in the blanks of who some of these amazing providers are that are on this call. I want to give the opportunity for any questions, just any more comments, questions, stories from anyone else on this call. And as always, please do feel free to reach out over email. I'll put my email in the chat. I know, again, a lot of you have it, but I want to make myself available to talk a little bit more about all of this. Jeff, go ahead.
We're also very open to ways, innovative ways that the Eastside community can get involved in the NNC. That's the beauty of the NNCs and being neighborhood by neighborhood. It allows us to kind of figure out innovative ways that people want to be involved. So please know that you can be involved with this Neighborhood Navigation Center if you're a resident or Kayla, are we going to need some assistance ultimately with meal sharing? I know we have something set up for the first few times, but I think we're going to be looking into that piece of the puzzle too. So if they're Eastside partner, we'd love Eastside partners and faith communities to be involved in that piece. Am I speaking out of, is that true? Or
no, Jeff, that is true. That is the model that we have at the other two neighborhood navigation centers, is engaging faith communities, because we know that there's a kind of a robust and lively community that happens in a faith community. And so we want to be able to pull those folks who live, work, and worship on the East Side to be able to make a meal. So talked with Calvary Chapel about that possibility of relational volunteers or a meal to share volunteer, as well as with a couple other faith communities. But if you are a part of a faith community or part of a community organization who wants to prepare a meal once a month and come and serve that meal, a breakfast style brunch kind of vibe, then you are welcome to do that. And we would love to have that, because again, what Oscar had mentioned earlier, this holistic care idea is the backbone of what NNCs are meant to be and what they're designed to be. And that includes healthy meals and people who want to talk to people. So that is absolutely an element. You are not wrong, Jeff. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll let us go a little bit early, and this recording will be available on YouTube, and I'll be able to follow up with some of you individually over email or in person. But again, just want to say another word of thanks for spending an hour of your evening on a Wednesday night with us. Thanks to each of our provider partners for sharing, for all of the hard work and the dedication that it takes to care for this population, and all of this kind of working together to meet needs, mitigate impacts, and address homelessness in the city of Santa Barbara. So just thank you, thank you, thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.